I'm not a mad scientist. I just play one on the internet. Max the Mad Modeler. Get my voice back. Oh, all right. I actually have some notes today. First off, to Shock 11, who says, and I'll probably butcher this, Opla, Heglum Mech, Kok, Jajuvam. I say, Gesta, Vis, Vum, Fum. And the pursuit of Happy Tannian ask a question. So guys, maybe we can help this gentleman out. I believe he said he was missing an instruction sheet for a vintage car model. It's a Vintage Car Club of America Exacto 1912 Ford Model T 124 scale instructions. So if anybody has instructions for that, let us know. Maybe we'll work out a way you can send him a copy of the instructions for the Vintage Car Club of America Exacto 1912 Ford Model T 124 scale. By the way, I asked yesterday that picture of Andy Yanchus. He said, I asked if that was Ray Harryhausen. He was sitting beside, and one of you guys recognized him and said it was Ray Myers, who was the sculptor who did those beautiful sculpts. I was working on the notes for the recording of the audio for the from the phone call that I did with Andrew, and I sent him a copy for his perusal. Unfortunately, this recording software I have on my phone is pretty bad, so I don't know if I have a setting wrong. I went through them last night, but I could barely make out what he was saying. It was like trying to listen on a telephone from 1900. But I think I got most of the stuff down. But hopefully, once he gets a chance to look at that, and we'll get that recorded and underway. So much great stuff. And Andy also wrote a newsletter called The Runner, and he sent me a couple of copies that are all full of cool stuff that I'll probably include in there. Just, you know, how they went about deciding what to make or not, or the story behind why they, you know, that Russian nuclear bomber I was talking about, the one that was supposed to be nuclear powered, why they thought it was their nuclear powered bomber, and it's everything happens for a reason, and you realize, oh, okay, that makes sense. Because we kind of look back that now and chuckle, what were they thinking? Well, actually, their decisions made a lot of sense. We'd have all probably made the same decisions. But then there's some other things he was telling me about that happened that you're just kind of like, you cringe. You're like, oh my God, how could they do that? No, say it ain't so, Joe, say it ain't so. Off to PT in a little bit as soon as I'm done loading this. I head off to physiotherapy, and then my wife and I have some errands and things to run. So hopefully sometime this afternoon, if the weather's nice and the Tarbis isn't flooded out, I'll get a little work done, because I'm looking for, I cut the very first piece of paper on my lunch umbilical tower, that Dave Meyer paper, Saturn V launch umbilical tower, loot. And I cut the base out, and of course you have to build a backing for the base without, that's not included. You have to get your own material. I think I've got enough stuff in there to do it. And I'm not sure if I'm going to use foam board or cardboard, but any medium will work, I suppose. You know, I don't have it with me to show you, but Revell has a real nice base that comes with the Saturn V to mount it on. I imagine most of the companies do, but I was just thinking, you know, I wonder if that'd be worth making a casting of, you know, like in resin, or so I can make more of them in resin. because that'd make a nice way for mounting a lot of model rockets and stuff. Even, you know, you'd look good even with the sci-fi stuff. So got a lot of great airliner models sent to me last night, images on the workspace stuff, and everything's looking good. The only thing I think we're a little short of this time around, which is not a big deal. It's not like we have, you know, got to have everything, but don't have a lot of real space this time. Of course, I only send the pictures you guys send me because I only use the pictures you guys send me. I don't download anything from websites. But I have seen some insane Gemini that was it 124? No, not 124. It's 124 scale Gemini. I've got one. You think I'd remember? From Revell, and I was on a couple of websites looking, and man, the work these guys did. I mean, one guy, I don't have the link. Maybe I can find it. He heavily modified it into what was called the I forget if it was the manned orbiting laboratory or it was just the reusable. Yeah, it was the mall because it's the one that had the tunnel. Now, for those who don't know, the Geminis, which is an all too often forgotten, really, really great program in the space, you know, Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo. Everybody remembers Mercury because it's first, and everybody remembers Apollo because they did the moon landings, but poor Gemini's the middle brother everybody forgets about, and it was, every astronaut was involved, and they just said it was just a great program. Well, the Air Force, and by the way, until the space shuttle, and I've seen the one at the museum, one of the Geminis, the Air Force tossed up twice, the same capsule. It was like the only spacecraft we had to ever do 2 space flights, and I think they were unmanned, but it was Air Force test. But anyway, the manned orbiting laboratory, the section behind the Gemini, was going to be like a small space station. They were going to go up and basically do experiments and run spy missions for 30 days and come down. And of course, it turned out to be too expensive. But the Gemini has ejection seats. It was the only spacecraft, except for like the very early test bed shuttle, to have ejection seats. And that's why it doesn't have a escape tower like the Mercury or the Apollo. So the seats were angled out just a little bit at the headrest. So in the manned orbiting laboratory, so they could get back in there, there was a very small tunnel, just big enough for a guy, and I'm guessing he probably had to take off their spacesuits to do it. Maybe they could do it in their spacesuits, but they had this tunnel that they would go in the back section. They had a piece of the heat shield that would unscrew and pop out, and they could get into the back. And the entry point was between the headrests. And this fellow just did this incredibly hyper-detailed conversion of the Revell kit. And I thought about doing it because I was so impressed, but I was actually just going to do it as a regular Gemini capsule. But I realized real quick, man, that was just beyond my skill set. He had for those who don't know, the Gemini, you have the black capsule and you have that white shroud, and then you have the missile, or the rocket. And one of the reasons, of course, that shroud is, as you can tell, it's where they store a lot of equipment because there's void space back there. But its primary function is it mates the capsule to the rocket because the rocket's much bigger diameter than the capsule, and why it has that cone shape. But there's a lot of equipment back there. Well, he had these are all separate sections, and where they mate on the actual rocket, there's this like a trim piece, and it's got like one side is scalloped out at one scale, and the other side is scalloped out at a different scale. And he got a strip of plastic and made every one of those little scallops at the different scales complete to the right number. I mean, the thing should be in a museum. It's just, some of you people have got skills that absolutely, just as long as I've been looking at and building models, it still flabbergasts me. Your attention to detail incredible. And but you know, everybody has a difference. Some people, it's all about the details, and they derive their pleasure from making this hyper accurate replication of reality. And I mean, I just stand back and salute and say, you know, we are not worthy. And then there are guys like me who just like to make something that looks nice on the shelf. Once in a while, I'll get in the mood to do a hyper detail, partly probably just to see if I can. And probably the last one I did that with was the Vindicator. And I'm actually, despite the mistakes I made, I'm actually kind of proud of that build. Didn't help that I dropped a bomb rack on the floor and rolled it over with a chair without knowing it, which is one reason the bomb rack's so lopsided. And the landing gear had a lot of little parts because it was, Accurate Miniatures made it so extremely accurate. And I probably could have done a little bit better job on that. But overall, I was like, you know, this looks like what those poor Marines had to jump into at the Battle of Midway. And I probably mentioned this before, but if you ever watched that Battle of Midway footage, those white stripes on the airplane aren't squadron markings. That's hospital tape holding the fabric on. These guys went to war in that thing against Zeros. Whew. Man. Yeah, respect. And somebody out there was asking about, actually several people asked about the Gato, the 172nd class Gato sub, and that was the third one. I built two before, and one one of you guys said that your dad or grandfather served on the SS Trigger. I think it was SS 237. I actually, the last one I built was for Dave Knoll, and his father, or his grandfather, Commander Knoll, was the commander when it was lost in 45, because we didn't know the Japanese had perfected sonar. So, and after that we figured it out. So it cost us a submarine a lot of brave men to learn about the advancement they'd made. And the Navy kept that a big secret for a long time, for security reasons, and Cold War and whatnot following the. So that and as a couple of you asked me about the kit, and I think it's a great kit. I have no real argument with it. If you want to get brass or resin, particularly brass parts for things like the gun sight to the Oerlikon and stuff like that, or the gun sight to the 3-inch gun, that because they use a little piece of clear plastic, which it's really hard to make it look right. But those are minor things, and but one reason I decided to give Fernando the Klingon battle cruiser instead of the PT boat was I didn't know how complex the PT boat was, but I knew I haven't built it yet. It's only been on the shelf for 10 years. But I did. I have built several Klingon battle cruisers, so I know that they're pretty straightforward build. Be a good first kit. Oh, he was so excited. He was so excited. When I told him I'd bring him a model, I think he just kind of, yeah, sure, and kind of forgot about it. So maybe he's 21. Maybe, you know, like I just pointed out, first one free, kid. Hey, kid, first model's free. I'm interested to see what he does. And so that's about all for this morning. Do my warm-ups because I got to go to physical therapy here. I want you guys to all have a wonderful day, and hope everything goes great for you. And we will hopefully see you tonight with something of interest to say. Ciao, brothers in plastic. To the Glue Trooper armor, to the Glue Trooper Army, we salute you.